Welcome back for another episode of Branching Out with Sierra. Today's episode is about leading yourself first, coming from lessons from Mount Everest Base Camp. And if you recall, when we had Michael Savino from Nexus Box on a bit ago, we did mention that we were going to have him come back for some other episodes because there are lots of different layers to the onion that we need to unpack with Michael. And today we're going to focus on his trip to Mount Everest Base Camp. And I'm really excited about it because this episode lets us focus in on how you need to be able to lead yourself effectively first before you can lead others. And I'm excited to hear some of his stories from the trip and connect it back to leading ourselves effectively. So thanks for being here, Michael.
Of course. Looking forward to it again.
Excited. And he is, just so you guys know, if you're not watching it on YouTube, he is wearing his Everest Trail Guide shirt. He also has a shirt here on the table that is a great reference because it has a map on it. So he can actually point out and describe. Maybe you guys want to switch over to YouTube for this one. So he can describe exactly where he was.
Look at
that.
Yeah.
Impressive. So I actually reread the article from the Winchester Star this morning just because I thought I wanted to, freshen it up in my mind a little bit. And I couldn't remember exactly what month you went, but it's been about a year.
It's coming up on almost a year since I left. Yeah, I left March 25th last year, the day after my birthday. And I was talking to the guide and stuff, my friend Hamnath and stuff over there that I did the trek with. He actually just did another trip and stuff about a week or so ago. And he's like, "Hey, Michael," he's like, "almost a year." He's like, "almost a year." I'm like, it's crazy how time flies.
Yeah.
Like, because I can't believe it's been, that long already and stuff, quite frankly. I mean, it's been...
I wasn't the one to go, but I remember you going and coming back, and it certainly doesn't feel like a year ago. So that blew my mind when I looked at the article, and the article, I think, was like April 20th, 2024, something like that. Yep. So how long were you actually gone?
Almost a month.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like 3.5 weeks, something like that.
Did it go by quickly?
In retrospective, yes, but when I was there, it was
probably not.
There were some days where I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, how am I going to make it through this day? So yeah, it depends on the day.
Time flies when you're having fun, but that wasn't necessarily always fun. There was a lot of challenge involved.
Yeah, some people thought it was a vacation, and in some ways, yes, it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was more of a lifelong challenge that I've wanted to put myself through. And so it was a vacation, but it wasn't a, hey, I'm going to sit on the beach kind of a thing.
Yeah. Okay, so I kind of want to go as best I can in chronological order here, and start with how you even trained for this. What did it look like in getting yourself prepared mentally and physically for this trip?
That is a question for the ages, I guess you could say right there. So as we kind of touched on last time and stuff, I had the whole cancer situation and everything else. So my body was not exactly in the greatest spaces to begin with. Mm-hmm. But when I hit the 2-year cancer-free mark, I was like, you know what? Screw this. Mm-hmm. Wanted to do this for so long. I booked the trip without being in good shape of any sort whatsoever. I always kind of say hey, you never know what's going to happen around the next corner.
Yeah.
Just booked it, and then I figured out how to get in shape after that again. I started doing some CrossFit again a little bit with some of my old coaches and stuff, which Jess and her husband and stuff. Jared was helping me a little bit and stuff, and then I got back into martial arts, and that was really my big kind of get in shape kind of moment and stuff with everything with the guys down at Boyce's Martial Arts and everything. So
that's a good plug for them, by the way.
It was, yeah.
Do all the plugs you need
I
to
throw
do.
it out there. I got Jess and Jared in there too, so but yeah, no, it was really kind of often I wasn't getting on the treadmill and running every single day. It was just kind of doing more cross training on different things and stuff. And the mental side of things, I honestly didn't do a lot of training for the mental side just because I've already been through the mental training.
Yeah.
Everything that I've dealt with over the number of years, that was my mental training, and I figured if I could get through that, nothing was going to hold me back.
Well, that's what I like when I reread that Winchester Star article. It listed in a period of time all the things that you went through, and we don't have to dig deep into all of them because we have other episodes to go through those. But when you say you had already been through so many different challenges, what are you talking about?
In a brief nutshell, losing a house in a hurricane, my mother passing away from cancer, my wife's illnesses with 3 brain surgeries, my cancer, my father's cancer.
Yeah.
List goes on for quite a bit. So, but yeah, those are lots of different things.
Yeah. So the mental piece you had under control because you are a very resilient person. That's for sure. Now, on the physical side, did you feel ready when you left? Were you like, oh, yeah, I've trained, I'm good, I've got this? Did you actually feel ready?
I was second guessing myself the entire time.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. You know, I knew there wasn't going to be anything other than falling off the mountain or, you know, breaking an ankle or a leg that was going to hold me back. Like there was nothing mental that was going to stop me, you know, aside from, you know, some sort of crazy accident, you know, quite frankly. I mean, I was mentally set, but was I second guessing my cardio? Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, but it's the power of the mind, though, because our bodies are capable of so much more as long as, to me, it's more important that your mind is capable of it because I feel like then you can push through.
Yep. After, I think it was day 3, like after we got to Lukla, which we could talk about a little bit and stuff with the airport and stuff, but like day 3, like I think we had just gotten to Namche Bazaar, which was like this crazy like 8-hour trek, which felt like it was like just climbing straight up for like 8 hours. And I'm like, every time you'd get to like the next little peak where you're like, oh, there's flat level land. And you're like, oh, okay, that's it. After like 3 hours, you're like, oh no, you turn the corner and it just goes up again. And you're like, oh, okay, we're going to keep going. Okay. And then we're going up and like, I'm like, we weren't the only ones on the trail, you know, on occasion we'd pass by others, and I passed by like 3 or 4 people that were just like on the side of the trail, just crying, like literally crying, going, I can't do this anymore. And I'm like, I just kind of like, it's kind of a free for all. You can't like, you know, stop, and, you know, unless it's like a life or death situation. But, you know, like people are just not you could see a lot of people that were not mentally ready for that, even on like the first couple days of the trek. And, you know, when we finally got there, like, my legs were killing me, and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do this for the next like couple of weeks to get to my goal, you know, kind of a thing. And it was just mental, you know, it was just one step ahead and just keep going.
That's amazing. So you talked about the challenges, which have to do a lot with health within your family. What about like the business side? How has the world of business prepared you mentally for that?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of businesses over my lifetime. I'm a solo serial entrepreneur, you know, I guess you could call me. I think I've had like 6 or 7, maybe even more businesses and stuff if I started listing them all out. You know, I've lost a lot of money back in the day, and, you know, a lot of people, when they fail and fail and fail, they give up. And
I'm not meant to be a business owner.
Yeah, they just pack it all in and then, you know, go back to the corporate world and, you know, say, hey, my idea was bad, and, you know, just start filling out paperwork or something for somebody else and making somebody else rich.
Yeah.
You know, I failed so many times, but I would always get back up, always get to the next idea, and would always restart and just keep going. Like, it's just ingrained in my head to do that and just keep moving forward, you know, after failure, learning from my mistakes and kind of figuring out, hey, what did I do wrong? How can I improve? And you know, doing that enough times to where, hey, I finally have a business that succeeded, you know, because I failed so many times. You know, I think, isn't it like Michael Jordan, you know, like, hey, I failed like 999,000 times, you know, or something crazy like that. And, you know, he succeeded on like, you know, the next one, and, you know, from there on out. It was
worth
you know,
it, right?
You know, I mean, it's the same thing in business. I mean, you have to fail in order to succeed. And, you know, same thing with every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
So
this, you also mentioned it had been like a childhood dream of yours to do this. How did that come about?
I ever since I was in like 3rd grade, I've always just had this fascination with Mount Everest. I don't know why. It's just like, I read something when I was like, I don't know, how old are you when you're in third grade, or you're like 8 years old, something like that.
Yeah.
Read something about it, and I would always just stare at these pictures of the mountains, and I don't know, it just grabbed me back then. And I always kept saying like, hey, one of these days I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna get there. One day I want to climb to the top, and this was my opportunity to say screw it and let me just go finally do it. And I had the opportunity, between business, I had the staff that were supporting me to be able to allow me to go and take the time off and stuff to do this. I had the family, that was supportive of me going to do this, friends that were supportive. Everybody was like, nobody was saying like, no, don't do this, like it was.
But I'm sure everybody was very scared too.
Oh yeah, everybody was terrified.
I was a little terrified for you.
Oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody was terrified. Yes, 100%.
But I would have never told you that.
No, and honestly, my wife, she was reaching out to friends of mine and stuff like that have known me my entire life, and this one really caught me. So my friend Jesse, that I've known since I think I was like 13 years old or something like that. My wife reached out to him, and what he said to her, like, was.
Are we about to cry here?
No.
Okay.
It's just a very cool thing. She's just like, out of anybody in this world, you don't have to worry about Mike. Like, he is the one person that will come back from anything. Like, like knowing all the stuff that I've gone through and what I've had to push through, like, they're like, this is going to be a piece of cake. Like, he'll make it through it. And I did, I mean, it's just like, I always just kind of have this mindset, and I in some ways flip a switch and just kind of put myself in a different mode to get from point A to point B. And, like, it's just, I don't know, it's ingrained in me to always move forward.
Yeah. Would you do it again?
I've already planned my next trip for 2030.
Love it.
Where I'm planning on to go summit.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I've already talked to Hamnath and some of the people and stuff over there that I've met. And, yeah, I've already got it in the books and stuff to plan the summit trip. So
that's amazing. So when you said about the first trip that you just went ahead and booked it and then you had to start preparing, that actually works very well like get something on the calendar and say, I have to do this now. There's no turning back. I've already booked it. Same with the podcast. When I said I was going to release a podcast, I'm like, all right, well, we're releasing the first one on this date. We don't have a choice now.
Like, what are you going to do? Like, you're like, well, I've already told a bunch of people, like, if I don't do this, I'm going to look like an idiot. Like, so it's like, well, better do it. It's like, hey, just find a way, like that's, it's kind of like, back in school, like if you're in high school and you're cramming for an exam or something like that, and you wait till the last minute, it's like, well, I'm just going to do it. Like, it's there, it's set in stone. Like, I got to make myself make it happen. So yeah, it's, why not? You know, what have I got to lose and stuff? It's a lifelong journey. I joke around with my kids and stuff too. Like, outside of all of the crazy things that I've been through on the negative side, I've also done a ton of crazy good things. And I joke with them, like, I'm like, man, I'm like, when I'm old, and I die, like when I'm like 90 years old, I'm like, you're going to be up there and you're going to be talking about, instead of the things that I didn't get to accomplish, you're going to, you're going to have all this list of things, and you'll be like, well, he's done everything except for just these two things. Like, it's like instead of listing my accomplishments, just list the 2 or 3 things that I didn't get to. Like,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, I make that joke with them, because like, they're like, you do too much. I'm like, but I have fun.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So you are a very confident person. I love that about you, but I know that there were fears and doubts in there. What was the biggest fear associated with the trip?
Honestly, it was Lukla Airport.
Okay.
It was the scariest moment of my entire life. Like, I'm not even gonna kid. Like I was joking about it beforehand, and and I was like, when you see something scary and you like to make other people scared sometimes, just for fun, because you kind of want to have somebody to be scared and joke about it a little bit together. So Lukla Airport, if you go and you Google this thing, it's listed as the #1 most dangerous airport in the world. And it's because
That's where Michael wants to go.
Yeah, it's like, oh, cool. I can't wait to go there. But like seriously, if you Google this thing and you watch the videos of Lukla Airport, it's the most dangerous airport in the world because number one, the weather's always horrible. So like if there's fog or any kind of like precipitation, they won't do the flights there. And like you take off from these like little tiny airports and stuff. And I think the height of Lukla, like you land at I think it's like 2,700 meters. Like I guess that's around like 8,000 feet or something like that.
Okay.
But when you land on this little tiny runway that's on an incline with a big wall in front of it. Like you land on the side of the mountain. Like
someone
like,
would have had to knock me out.
well, the crazy part, like that wasn't even the hard part. The landing was great. Like I thought that was fun. Okay. But like once you take off and it's like this like puddle jumper airplane thing that like probably was from like the 1970s or something. And once you get up like maybe 1,500 feet, like because of like the wind shears and all that sort of stuff, like I swear to God, at one point it felt like the plane was going sideways, and I'm like, how is this happening? And I'm like looking out the windows, and I'm like, it's like rattling. Like there's like 2 or 3 people in front of me on the plane. They're like vomiting. Like, like I'm like, yay! Like here we go. Like all right, we're gonna get there. And like the only thing that like the flight, like I guess you can call them a flight attendant kind of a thing, because there's just like, you know, here's the pilot and like here's the person who's like getting you to your like seat, because there's like 10 people on the plane. They walk around with this little bag of cotton. They're like, here, just put these in your ears so you don't hear all the sounds outside. I'm like, okay, here we go.
Wow. And how long of a flight was that?
It was a short flight. It was like half an hour. You know, it was
but the longest half an hour of your life.
Yeah. Well, and the funny part was like it wasn't even like the flight was like scary and all that sort of stuff, but like so you talk about like fears and like leadership and kind of putting like your belief in somebody, so to speak, too, like with everything. So once I left my hotel to go to the little airport that was going to take me to Lukla, it was me and my guide, who I had literally just met like the day before, other than talking on, you know, WhatsApp and things like that and stuff. But we get in this I guess it was a taxi. It was just some random guy's car. And he didn't speak a lick of English. And we're driving through like Kathmandu and Nepal for like almost 6 hours, like on back roads in this like, you know, I'm not going to call it a third world country, because when you're over there, you do not call Nepal a third world country. You call it a growing infrastructure.
Oh, okay. Lesson learned. Did you learn that the hard way?
I did. But yeah, we got in this car, we started driving, and I'm just like, all right, I'm going to put my faith in this. I'm like, he could take me out back and like I could never be seen again. But, you know, I mean, it was an awesome backroads trip, and, you know, somehow we communicated even though he didn't speak English and, you know, I did, and I didn't speak, you know, Nepali. But, you know, somehow we were laughing the entire time. Like,
I laugh when I'm scared too, maybe.
Yeah, you know, but it was, you know, I put my faith in him to get me from point A to point B, and we got there, and then I got on a plane and did something crazier.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So there were fears associated with the travel and even getting to the point where you could start
to be worried about.
Yeah.
And then once you're there, you're like, well, I can't turn back. Like, you're like, well, it's either going to be a great story of me getting from here to base camp and landing at Lukla, or it's going to be a fantastic story of some sort of horrible plane crash.
Oh gosh.
I'm like, you can't turn back now. Like, you know, like I joke about it, but like, you know, it's like, you know, the entire trek, you know, and the entire trip was all about just taking one more step moving forward. Like there was nothing that was going to make me turn back. There was absolutely nothing. Like, you know, I joke about it in my head that like, hey, you know, this could happen or that could happen. But literally, like, there was nothing that was going to make me turn back. It was always move forward, you know, and I try to live my life in general outside of the trek the same way. Just always move forward.
Stop looking back so much.
Yeah.
I want like a glimpse inside of your head. So I'm going to relate this to like when I'm running, when I go for a long run, how much of a mental game it is. Even when my body's not cooperating, I feel like I'm dying. My heart rate's at almost 200 and I'm still pushing myself because I'm like, no, I said I'm going this far and I'm not going to stop. And I just know like all of those thoughts that go through, it's crazy. Like you have to suppress a bunch.
Oh, yeah.
Give us a glimpse inside your head as you were trekking up the side of that mountain. What was happening in there?
It was literally, so, when you're running and using that as kind of an analogy and stuff for it, you have your mile markers and, things of that nature and stuff. I had my GPS and I'm like looking at like, hey, how high am I supposed to climb today? What's my elevation goal for the day?
Okay.
So I'm using things like that. And then I'm also looking at my watch and I'm trying to look at my blood oxygenation and stuff like that, because that was one of my biggest fears and stuff like that too. Like with everything is like my, blood oxygen like number dropping and stuff like that because you're at like higher altitudes and stuff. So I'm counting my steps. I'm looking at the elevation, and I'm trying to not worry about what's going on back home with the business and all of that sort of stuff. But I shut everything else off, other than like, okay, take another step. Okay, we're still good. Okay, legs are still working. Like, I mean, it was literally like I had to shut off every single other outside force. I didn't listen to music. I was just taking in nature. Yeah, I mean, it was just zoning out. Like, just literally just zone out completely. And just, one thing that, like, I in some ways, I kind of feel bad, like, for myself about it and stuff, too, is I zoned out so much and just focusing on getting through the challenge. I feel like I didn't, and this might sound weird, but I almost feel like I didn't enjoy as much of the trek
I can understand what you
as
mean
much
by
as
that.
I would have.
Yeah,
like,
because
I would
you were
enjoy,
in the zone.
Yeah, like I would totally just drown out everything until I'd get to a point where I could rest. Like
and
everything
then you turn
between
around,
there.
take it all in. Like,
Yeah,
this is how
exactly.
far I've come.
Exactly.
But in the moment, you're just focused on the next step and the data that supports that,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Just
I
like,
can
okay.
understand that.
Yeah, like heart rate's good. Okay, I'm not having a heart attack. Like, yep, we're good. Just keep moving. And then you get to the top and you're like, okay, I can breathe. Wow, I just did all that. Like, what was in the middle? Like, like it was just, yeah.
Okay, lesson learned for next time, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, that's good to know. All right, I know you probably have a ton of really cool stories to tell about this experience. Like I am kind of like living through you, so this is exciting for me. I want to know, as far as what you were carrying, am I correct in saying like a 30-pound pack?
It was closer to 40.
40-pound pack? Okay.
Yeah, which was a big mistake.
No? Okay,
Really,
we're
really
learning
big.
lots of lessons.
Yeah, so because I don't know anybody that's ever done this before, don't believe everything you read on the internet. That's the one big thing.
Don't chat GPT how to get to
other than
the
this
base
story
camp.
and this podcast, don't believe anything that you see on the internet.
There you go.
No, I after I booked the trip, I started watching tons of YouTube videos. I started Googling, like, what do you pack for this trip?
Yeah.
And I mean, I had like 9 months to like buy gear and get everything ready and stuff. And I way overpacked, like
Okay.
big time. Like, I mean, I had, I prepared for like, and I'm an over preparer. Like, so I mean, like, like, hey, if there's going to be an ice storm, okay, I've got my, metal cleats ready to go for my boots, like, if there was some kind of crazy flood, I'm like, okay, I've got raincoats and, ponchos and, like, like
I would do the same
thing.
thing.
I had gear for every situation. I'm like, I'm going to be in the Himalayas for like 2.5 weeks. I'm like hiking. I'm away from everybody on the face of the planet. I'm like, I want to have every preparation possible.
Yeah. Which every item weighs something, though, Michael.
Yes. Yes, it does. And halfway through like the trek there, I started giving stuff away to people on the trek. I'm like,
what are some things you gave away?
First aid kit, because I had too many.
too many.
I had 2 big first aid kits, and like one of them was from back when I used to do like caving trips and things up in West Virginia. Like it's like my big medical kit with like splints and stuff in it. I'm like, I don't need this. I'm like, there's helicopters that can take me if I fall off. I'm like, I'm good. I'm like, so that was like,
I'm not sure how much this first aid kit's
like,
gonna do if you fall off.
Yeah, I'm like, all right. I'm
Michael.
like, this is like 3 pounds. I'm like, all right, cool. And then I'd feel that. I'm like, oh,
the
this
guy's
is a little
sitting
bit
along
better.
the side crying, and you're like, here.
Yeah, I gave away a jacket. I had too many jackets with me. Like I had like too many base layers. The coolest stuff that I gave away was actually after, and we could talk about this guy more. This guy, Lockpow and stuff up at base camp.
Okay.
He was one of the medical evacuation guys. He'd be like the guy dangling from a helicopter, like if you fell into a crevasse. And he's actually should be in the Guinness Book of World Records for the most consecutive seasons at base camp now, doing medical evacuations.
That's so cool.
And I gave him a bunch of battery packs.
Oh, nice.
Like all my USB battery packs and stuff like that. I'm like, hey, you're going to need these way more for the season than I'm going to at this point. I'm like, I got here. I did my thing. Here you go. They were so happy to have the extra battery because like they were living off solar up there. So that was very cool. But yeah, that was probably, just giving away tons of gear and stuff while it was on the trek itself.
And what did you eat?
So I got very accustomed for probably the first half of the trip eating this most common dish for people. It's called a dalbach. Okay. And it consists of a lot of sauces that are extremely spicy. Lots of rice and chicken and this like tortilla that is like the most, like you'd think it was just like a Mexican like tortilla chip, but you bite into it, it's like the spiciest thing you've ever eaten in your life.
That does not sound good to me.
It actually,
like not on a trip.
It was well the reason that it's so common is because of the amount of protein and energy that you get out of it. So that's like why it's one of the most common dishes.
I feel like it'd make me really thirsty.
It did. I drank a lot of water. Yes, I became very accustomed to dalbachs, lemon tea, hot lemon tea. Okay. I had lots of scrambled eggs, surprisingly, which was awesome. There was one place that made or attempted to make a pizza. It was like a little, it was one of the tea houses and stuff, and like the tea houses are amazing and stuff too by themselves, but like they'd have like these like communal like areas where like the trekkers would like kind of like hang out and stuff around a fireplace and like tables and stuff, and you know they had a little kitchen in the back to feed the trekkers and stuff. And the one place tried to make little pizzas, and it was just like this like floury thing with sauce and cheese. And like, I don't care, I will eat that right now. Like I will try that. It wasn't half bad. But yeah, a lot of dalbachs.
Okay. So help me to understand this. Like, you make it to a certain point each day, and at that location, other people are set up and they're preparing food for you. You're not having to prepare your own food. You didn't have to pack your own food.
Just snacks for during the day.
Okay.
Yeah, that was one of the very thankful things and stuff, and that's why it's.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's
that would be my biggest concern is food, honestly, because if you had to carry.
Oh yeah, and I had like a little propane stove kind of thing just in case, which was another overthinking. Like, oh my god, and like, what am I gonna eat? And, like, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have this, and I'm gonna prepare coffee, and I'm gonna boil all my water, and which is actually a very important thing. But thank God they had ways to do that at the tea houses. Because you don't drink any water whatsoever. It's kind of like going to Mexico. They say don't drink the water. Same thing there. Bottled water, which got very expensive, by the way. Boiled water, bottled water, all that sort of stuff. But so like for example, like Namche Bazaar, which was like our first big area that we got to and stuff. It was like the last city after Lukla. Big tea house there. It was very much like a city in the sky is the only way I can describe it. Like it was like one of the, in some ways it was cooler than base camp. Like it was like one of my like top destinations when I was going to Nepal that I couldn't wait to get to. And I had set this goal. I'm gonna bick my head. I'm gonna get a flat razor shave when I get there. I'm gonna get my head shaved up in the mountains, like on my trek. And me and my guide Hamna, we both got our heads shaved
That
while
is
we were
so
on the
fun.
trick and stuff like that. And we have this great photo of the two of us and stuff like that. And like every time we
Aw.
talk, he's like, "Hey, Michael," he's like, "Time to get a fresh shave." I'm like, "Let's do it, let's do it."
Aw.
So yeah, like, that was one of our great memories and stuff from the trek and everything. Me and him together and stuff out there.
Yeah.
And,
I'm sure
very
that
cool.
relationship will last a lifetime.
Yeah, he's
Sounds like
such
you're
a
staying in touch.
very cool dude. I'm talking with him. I talked to him last night actually, and trying to help his son. His son lives in Australia and stuff, and he wants to come to the U.S. and stuff. So I'm like trying to help him with some info and stuff. But yeah,
Aw.
he's super cool guy, super
How
great family.
cool.
But yeah, you know, with the other locations, like we get to like Gorek's shop, which is like one of the last tea houses and stuff, like on the way to base camp,
Okay.
and like they get progressive. I don't want to use the word worse. There is less and less amenities.
There you go.
That's a
Well,
more businessy way of saying that, I guess. So you go from like having a nice, and none of these were like hotels. It wasn't even like going to a motel of any sort. Like at Gorek's shop, it was basically like you'd have 4 walls of plywood and like a nice area to like kind of put your sleeping bag, kind of a thing.
Okay.
And like it's above, like it's not above the death zone or anything like that, but it's above the vegetation death zone. So there's no vegetation growing at this point. It looks like you're on the moon or some other random planet. And it's such, like the pictures I have from like being above like 14,000 feet, they are some of the coolest pictures that I have.
What? We've never sat down and
We
looked at them
haven't. I
together.
actually
What is
haven't.
our problem?
I don't know why. We haven't actually looked at the pictures. I have to show you the pictures.
The only pictures I've seen are on your website, which I complimented the other day.
Yes.
Guys, go to Nexus Box. The website is so cool because it's the video in the background is literally his trek,
Yes.
and I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, show me the freaking pictures.
I have to. I've got thousands of them, which was another thing that I totally overpacked on. I had so many batteries, like for like my GoPro, which I had like this like shoulder camera. Like I had like my big Nikon like Z6 II, which like probably weighed 5 pounds by itself, and then all the extra batteries that I brought with for that. Like
Oh, wow.
it was just like all this added weight. It was like my back was killing me by the time I was like,
I'm
oh my god,
sure.
and like there was, so Gorek's shop though, like it was like 4 walls of like cardboard and stuff like that. I couldn't wait to get to base camp at that point, and just like, because at that point there was no tea houses. It was like, hey, here's a tent, and it was -10 at base camp when we finally got there.
I was going to ask you about temperature.
So this is the weirdest thing. So at Lukla and everywhere below Lukla, I was dying of heat. It was
Really?
so hot. Like, I mean, it was like 80. I think it was probably close to 90 degrees at some points. Even on the trek after Lukla, up until, oh God, it was probably after Dingboche.
Hold on, where's the map?
Where's the map? Where's the map? So here's Lukla. There's Namke Bazaar. Dingboche was here, and then we went this way here through Dingboche, and then we went up through here to get to, I believe it's the south side.
Okay.
But Gorek's shop right here and stuff, and then base camp was the next day.
Wow.
So each one of these stops was a tea house that we stopped along the way.
Oh, okay. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Great visual. Oh, yeah. I'm about to hear Matt say, hold it
Hold
up.
it up. Hold it up.
up.
There we go.
They
Right
want to
there.
see too. Hold on. Let's see if I can point.
There you go.
Okay. Where were we? Oh, no.
Right
now
there.
I've forgotten.
Here, you hold it up.
Okay.
You hold it up. I'll do the. Let's see. We got it right there.
Oh. You're such a genius.
There we go. So here's Lukla right here. This is where we landed. Then the first night was Fakding, and yes, it's just as fun over there too. Then we got to Namke Bazaar, go up this way through Tangboche, Pangboche, Dingboche.
Lots of boches.
Lots of boches, La Boche, Gorek's shop, and then to base camp up this way. So we kind of got this like nice little like S kind of curve through the Himalayas up there.
That is so cool. Okay, so temperature.
Yes. So once we got where was it on there? Where was 14,000-ish? So it had to be somewhere around Dingboche, I'm gonna guess. That's when I finally broke out my jacket.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's when I went from having just like long pants and like a nice sweater type thing
Mm-hmm.
going on and stuff like that, or fleece and stuff like that, to like, hey, it's actually starting to feel a little cold.
Okay.
But Gorek's shop and base camp, that was really freaking cold.
I'm sure.
I mean, when I was at base camp, like I had my water bottles and things like that. Within like 5 minutes, they were frozen. Like I had filled them up, and I'm like, put them in my tent, and like I came back, like after I ran to the bathroom, they were frozen solid. I'm like, oh man. I'm like,
That's a problem.
yeah, I didn't sleep at all that night. Like, I mean, it was crazy. So I had got this like $1,500 sleeping bag that was supposed to be good to like -20 degrees Celsius or something. And
That's insane.
yeah, it was. I mean, it felt warm everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but yeah, I was so cold like up there, and everything was just freezing everywhere. I mean, like you literally. I mean, it was like, hey, I had a pad on the ground, and I was sleeping on top of the glacier. I mean, it was wild, and talking with like the medical team that was up there and stuff. So they were so cool to hang out with and stuff. So we get up there, and like they were the first people that I met and stuff, because normal trekkers and you know tourists, like they don't go where I went and stuff. Like I had special access and stuff beyond the
Oh.
normal trekking areas.
Okay.
Because I was
Look at you, VIP.
I had the VIP pass. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
Because I was sleeping over and stuff at base camp and stuff. Most people just trek there and then go back to Gorek's shop the same day.
Oh, okay.
So I was hanging out. I got to meet all like the people, all of the Sherpas that were getting ready for like the people and the actual climbers that were gonna start preparing for the summit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, when I left and when I was there, it was very early in the season and stuff. So like they were setting up all the tents, they were setting up, all the, the base camp structures and stuff at base camp to get ready to support the climbers who were getting ready.
Okay.
Because they'll be there like from like March through almost June. And when you summit, like, I mean, that's like going up to base camp 1, then back down, base camp 1, base camp, back and forth to acclimatize and stuff on the mountain itself. So that's like over, I mean, that's a couple months of them up and down to get ready to summit and stuff, kind of a thing up there. Yeah, but like watching them, like the Sherpas with like these old pickaxes and chiseling away at like the glacier because every season, like between the melting and the shifting and stuff, they have to like everything gets taken down and put back up, so they have to like chisel away and put up new tent structures and all this sort of stuff. It was so wild to see them up there, and like none of them complained about anything. I mean, it was just wild to like watch them do their thing. And talking with like the medical staff, like they're like, oh, if this is your first night on at base camp, they're like, you're gonna feel and see and hear so many crazy things at night. So like I'm in my tent at night, and they had warned me about, because you're sleeping on a glacier, all the cracking that happens beneath you.
Oh, I can't.
Like
that sounds terrifying.
It was a little bit. Like the first time I felt them, like, oh,
like it
that's
could
not
just
gonna
like break and.
Yeah, it was like literally it would feel like almost like a minor earthquake, but all of a sudden you hear and feel like almost like if you're on like a lake and you like you feel that shifting. It was like that, like every couple hours, like underneath you, like when the ice is cracking. Like it would just that rumble feel, like all night long, like you'd feel that.
Yeah.
And then like all of a sudden,
sleep.
like I heard it twice in the middle of the night. Like you'd hear avalanches.
Whoa.
Like you'd hear like the ice falls like starting to kind of come down from the mountains and things like that. Like that was really cool to hear.
Yeah, but how did you know if it was gonna?
It was
if
far
it
enough
was coming toward
far
you.
Enough, yeah, I mean it was far enough in the distance, but like hearing like all of that, like it was just it was very very cool.
I'm sure that was cool, but also scary.
Yeah.
I don't want to ask, but I kind of want to ask. I have to.
Yeah.
I want to know about the scariest moment or the not like.
It's a funny but scary, actually. I'll tell you.
Okay, because I want to know if you wanted to, like, if you really wanted to turn back and you were so close to it, but you knew you couldn't. I want to know that too.
Okay.
Okay.
So the only moment that I almost turned back wasn't a scary moment.
Okay.
I got sick as a dog.
Okay.
I got altitude sickness, around 15,000 feet, something like that. And I was sick to my stomach, and I didn't know what was going on for like a day and a half and stuff. Got it out of my system. Hamlet didn't think I was gonna come back from it.
Really?
Yeah, he's like you could see it in his face. He's like, yeah, he could see I was struggling. But somehow I pushed through it, and after that, he kept saying, Michael, you're strong as yak.
Oh.
You're strong as yak. Like, because somehow I got stronger after that. Like,
really?
Yeah, no
Wow.
idea. Like, yeah,
Okay.
I somehow it was the Michael Jordan flu game after that. Like, I was like, all right, we're doing this thing. We're pushing through. We're gonna make it happen.
Good for
like,
you.
But
Didn't
in the
your
middle of
porter
that,
have to turn around? Didn't you have?
yes.
Okay.
At Gorek Shop, the last stretch, he got altitude sickness at Gorek Shop.
As someone who's used to doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he got hit harder than I did.
Okay. And you're like, sorry, dude, you're not gonna make it.
Yeah, he had
No.
he had like splitting headaches. I mean, he had feet. Like, I mean, it was bad for him. Like, it was like borderline. We almost had to evacuate him on a helicopter kind of situation.
Oh man.
But at Gorek Shop, it's kind of like that's a good way, a Star Wars analogy and stuff, like Mos Eisley, like kind of a thing up in the trek. It's kind of like this last little culmination of where like the Sherpas and the porters and everybody kind of get together, and luckily my guide, he like knows everybody. It was crazy. Like, he was like, everybody knew him. Like, he was the guy.
That's cool.
So I lucked out in that regards. Like,
of course you ended up with that guy.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna. Of course, you know everybody that we're walking around with. Like, yeah, of course.
Come on, you got the VIP experience.
Yeah, like it was so cool. But yeah, that was.
So did you get someone else assigned to you, or how did?
Not assigned. Like, he just walked around, and just grabbed somebody.
Oh.
He's just like, yeah. He's like, hey, are you busy? Like, can you help us on the last stretch?
Oh.
And like, the guy he found, the guy was in sandals, like flip-flop sandals. Like, and it's like 0 degrees going to -10. Like, the pictures I have, like, I'll have to show you. Like, I mean, like, strap-on flip-floppy sandal things. Like,
and
smoking a cigarette.
oh,
Like,
that keeps your feet warm. I hear.
yeah, like, I mean, the Sherpas are another level. Like, they are awesome people.
Okay,
like,
that seems
living in a
crazy.
whole different
Wow.
like
Yeah.
temperature. I don't know how to, like, it's just, I'm like, how are you, like, I mean, we're climbing over boulders and
he's wearing his flippy floppies.
yeah, I'm like, okay, like, we're doing this. So I'm like all geared up with like my like climbing boots, and look, yeah, I'm like, I look like a baby or something.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, here's this overprotected guy climbing around in the Himalayas, and you've got flip-flops on. Like, okay. And the guy's like, and like, these guys, I mean, they are fast. Like, I mean, they could do probably the entire trek in like a day.
Really?
Like, yeah. Like, they don't stop.
Wow.
They don't acclimatize. Like, our guy probably should have, apparently, our first porter. But yeah, I mean, there's some people that can do it in a full day, like, just like marathon style, like top to bottom.
Wow.
It's crazy.
I'm impressed.
But yeah, the scariest
I want
point,
to
though,
know this. The scary funny.
So scary funny. So have you ever watched the movie Everest?
No.
Okay, great movie.
Okay.
Like, it's like a relative, like, last 10 years kind of movie.
Okay.
A lot of famous, Jake Gyllenhaal's in it, a bunch of other famous actors. Watch that.
All right.
They're crossing over these metal rope bridges
Mm-hmm.
on the trek to get to base camp and stuff. First couple rope bridges were okay.
Yeah.
First one was maybe 100 feet up. Next one was 150. The last one that I went over was hundreds of feet up. And I told you before, Hamnath would always say after my stomach issues was like, Mike, you're strong as yak.
Mm-hmm.
Yaks were the animal that were up there, like,
Okay.
all over the place. They were the ones carrying big, heavy things and everything all over the place. I got stuck on one of the rope bridges, and it's like, these things are not taken care of very often. Like there's like metal slats that are missing and things. Like it looks like a chicken wire fence that's like all rusted in half the places, and you're like hundreds of feet up with no harnesses or anything, and you're walking over this thing, and it's windy. You know, you get like awesome crosswinds on these things, and I get about halfway across and I get stuck behind like a whole bunch of yaks and donkeys. And I'm up there like, why won't the yaks move? And then there's a tourist in like a bunch of yaks and donkeys, tourists who are leaning over the edges going like, selfie time. And I'm sitting there in the middle of this like metal rope bridge thing going, please just keep moving. I'm stuck here, and there's a crazy crosswind, and there's metal slats missing. I'm like, why are we doing this?
No.
I'm like, what is going on right now? We need to keep moving.
I'm sure that felt like forever.
Oh my, it felt like forever. I'm like, this is not a tourist picture moment. Like, what are you doing? And the yaks are not moving to begin with on top of that. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just stand here and just wait. There's things like, and the best way I can describe those bridges too. So, do you remember like kids' playgrounds, like those little log bridge things?
Yes.
Picture that being like, God, I don't know, hundreds of feet long, hundreds of feet in the air, half the width, and like metal slats missing on the bottom.
Not interested.
Yeah, like that's what it felt like. It would be bouncing and swaying. I'm like, no, this is not as cool as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. I'm like picturing like in a movie it breaking off and you're holding on to the
like that was the scariest, funniest, scariest moment of the entire trek right there. Like that was like, wow, okay, yeah. Like this is going to be the part. This is going to be the moment that gets me. I'm going to be like, there's going to be a news article about me. He got stuck behind a bunch of yaks and a tourist, and the rope bridge broke. Like, yeah.
Did you have your GoPro on at that time?
I think I did. I haven't actually gone through all the footage yet either. Like, I have a bunch of footage
you need
that
to make
like
your own little movie, man.
I actually want to compile it and stuff. Yeah. One of the so with the company and stuff too, like with Nexus Box, we have a video editor and stuff, and he's actually from Kathmandu, so I actually got to go to his studio when I was over there.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so one of these guys that I've worked with, like he's a contractor and stuff, and he does like video editing. Like he actually, we've known him for years and stuff. He, I got to go to his studio by this place called like the Monkey Temple and stuff like that, and like a bunch of monkeys like all over the place, like. Which was super cool. I have to show you those photos and stuff like that too.
I'm obsessed with monkeys. I've always wanted one.
Yes, very cool.
That is cool.
But yeah, it was awesome going to his house and studio and getting to meet him in person as well and stuff on everything too. So it was it was just very cool.
So was there a moment where you shifted in your mind from like, I'm not 100% sure I'm going to make it to I've got this?
I think after I got through that last
Once
rope
you got
bridge.
through, okay.
Yeah, after that last rope bridge, I'm like,
you're like,
oh, that's the last one.
Anything.
I'm like, I'm good. Clear sailing from here. Yeah. Once I was done on like the high rope bridges, which I was honestly so much looking forward to too. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh man, those things look awesome. I can't wait to go walk over those rope bridges. The first one, I'm like, yeah, that was pretty cool. And then they kept getting higher and longer and like more and more sketchy. And like, do you remember like, have you ever heard Action Park?
No.
Like this like crazy adventure park in Vernon, New Jersey from like the late 90s. There's a movie on HBO Max or something, like the history of it.
Okay.
Go watch that too.
Okay. I have to take
it's just like, it felt like an old action park that wasn't taken care of for like 2 decades, going across these like rope bridges too. Cause like, who's the one who maintains these things? Like, it's like,
what does that even
where's the safety commission that's like, hey, is this bridge safe to walk across? Like, maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
Like that stuff starts going through your mind, and you're like, all right, well, first world problem, I guess. Like, like
that's true.
Yeah, like it.
Well, something you had mentioned to me before that I hadn't really thought of, I think maybe when we were having like lunch or breakfast together at some point, was didn't you say that they used yak poop to like burn. Like I would have never thought about the fact that there's not really anything to burn, right?
Yeah, that's their charcoal basically.
It makes you like think we're so lucky to have the things that we have.
Oh, yeah. So like everywhere you go, I mean, there's
imagine.
yak poop everywhere, and like the Sherpas and like the people that live in the mountain villages, they go around, they pick them up. They're like these like pies basically that they like put out to dry, and like you just see them sitting on like the walls drying out and stuff like that. And
can you build with it?
Like, I'm sure they do something else
like
with
what
it.
are all the uses?
But honestly, like that stuff burns way better than charcoal.
Really?
Yeah, like they would come in with this like big, I don't know, 50, 60-pound bag every night, like to like the area where there's like the fireplace and stuff where everybody's like sitting around and drinking tea and warming up and stuff. And they just pour it in the furnace, like all this yak poop. And like, I mean, it's like charcoal. I mean, it's like all crumbly and everything. They pour it in the furnace and like lights up. I mean, it's burning all night long. I mean, like 10, 12 hours on like one bag. And I'm like, it doesn't smell. Like there was no odor to it.
I was trying to picture that and like what are you supposed to be breathing in?
Yeah, absolutely no odor from it. I mean, no words. I mean, it was fantastic fuel. Like,
yeah, that's great. We need to
harness that or something. Like get some yak poop around. Like
it's a great idea. Start that business. There you go, Michael. There's another one for you.
Next serialpreneur idea.
I don't know when you were talking about like first world things, I was like, poop. I remember something about that.
Yeah. The funny part is I had no idea what it was at first. Like when I would when we were walking, I'm like, what are all these mud pies all over? Like, I'm like, and Hamlet is like, oh, he's like, that's yak poop. I'm like, oh, okay. Didn't know that was going to be a thing like up here.
What a different world. I really can't wait to see the pictures.
Yeah. And then there was mountain dogs. They were the cutest dogs on the face of the planet, but there was just random dogs like at the like different tea houses. They were just like running around. That
would like make you happy though.
Yeah, like one came in and was like hanging out by the fire at night and stuff like that, and like they were just cute dogs that were just like
it's like a therapy dog.
Yeah.
Tough trip, rub the dog. I can see that working.
Yeah, it was very cool.
So your one step at a time approach, thinking about how that applies to the way we do everything, right? The way that we lead, the way that we run our businesses. How does that mindset kind of carry through, and how are you seeing it play out? In your business today, what does it look like?
Yeah. So every day in business, there's a million things that you try to accomplish. I mean, you know that, I know that, every business owner listening to this knows that. How do you get anything done? You know, I tell myself every single day, you know, I want to learn one thing new and I want to accomplish one thing, you know, every single day. And if I don't just do it and I don't just take that step forward on something, like no matter how big, no matter how small it is, nothing is going to get accomplished, like at all. Like, so I have to just do it and take one step, one leap, whatever, you know, I think, you know, Neil Armstrong, you know, one giant leap, you know, for human, you know, like it's all about that. Just take that step, just do something. Like, even if it's wrong, just do it. Like, it's the only thing I can ever say that I think I've ever taken to heart is just do it, whether it's right or wrong, or just make that step forward. Like the biggest thing I could tell anybody.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I hear a lot of excuses from people all the time.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Like a lot. But then you listen to your story and you think, like, there's not really any good excuse for not getting anything done. Because if you can push through things like that, right, the power of that mental endurance, how can someone build that without having the life experiences that you've had? Like, what would that look like for someone to get to that point where you're like, oh, but I've already been through so many tough things? Well, what if they haven't been through things like that before?
I would say make yourself uncomfortable. Like, realistically, like, you know, I don't think there's anyone, I mean, unless you're incredibly lucky, you know, and you won the lottery and you like started a business and like you had all this, you know, kind of good luck. I don't think there's any business owner that's successful that can say, hey, I got from point A to Z by being comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
You know, make yourself uncomfortable and do that. You know, like, you know, even if it's just, you know, the smallest thing, like, you know, go to lunch by yourself, be uncomfortable. Go to a movie by yourself, be uncomfortable. You know, go to a business networking meeting by yourself, be uncomfortable. Do something to make yourself uncomfortable. Like, that's really what I can say.
Yeah. I just did an episode the other day. I recorded a couple of episodes in one day, and I was thinking about exactly that, because someone was asking me how I am still interested in what I'm doing after doing it day after day. How am I not losing my interest or my passion? And I said, it's because I'm being challenged every day.
Yeah.
Every client has a unique background, unique experiences, and needs support at a different level.
Yep.
And it's making me like have to, you know, question myself. How will I approach this situation? I'm preparing for this meeting. How am I going to do this or this workshop? What do they need from me? It's a constant challenge. And so it keeps it new and exciting and interesting, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's easy. It's super hard.
Oh, yeah.
But I have to keep doing the hard things.
I don't know about you, but I don't know if you have ADHD or anything.
Like, I definitely think I do.
I got diagnosed late in life, and you know, I think it was one of the reasons why being a serialpreneur, you know, kind of situation is so good for me and my mental sanity.
Yeah.
I get bored very easy. And if I don't make, you know, learn something new or do something different every day, you know, to your point, like, that's how I keep the interest going. You know, like, different clients, different projects, you know, even in web development, you know, it's not every day sitting down and coding. It's, hey, there's this project, you know, with an online pharmacy. Then there's, hey, there's this client with an online boat, you know,
very
store.
unique.
Very unique, different, you know, everything that you're doing, interacting with different clients, personalities, everything is different every single day. And that's what keeps my interest going.
Yeah.
You know, and then on top of that, trying to learn something new and, you know, maybe hire somebody, you know, and going through that process right now. I have a client that's actually, they're one of our web development clients, but we're helping them grow. And we're actually handling interviews, like their third round interviews. So I'm going in from a technical aspect and I'm doing interviews for them.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's something new. It's something different. You know, it's, keeps the interest going.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point, because I hear a lot of times from people, like someone in the business world, they make that look so easy, right? And they make the assumption that it's easy for the person. But if you go to that person and ask, like, you can ask some of the best speakers in the world, they still get nervous. They still have anxiety right before they go out. They're still sweating, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So people kind of assume that because they see you doing it, it comes naturally. That's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, even some of the singers that are out there that are on stage and things like that. I mean, some of them, like, I saw a video of, what's the guy? The guy that plays the Mandalorian, you know, on Disney, like Pascal or something. He has some of the worst anxiety on the face of the planet, and like has to, like, you know, be close to people and stuff when he's on stage, because otherwise he has like major anxiety attacks. Like, you know,
you would never
we put
know
these
that.
people on pedestals, but they have, like, you know, they're just like us. They have anxiety, and it's not easy for any of us to do what we do.
Yeah. You have a lot of discipline. You had to have had a lot of discipline leading up to and training for the trip. What does discipline look like in your life in your regular day to day? Not when you're preparing for, you know, Mount Everest.
Oh, God, that's another big question and answer kind of situation, I think. I think in terms of discipline, like, it's, you know, like, I'm trying to eat better. So I'm trying to, you know, not to let myself go crazy and stuff on that, and trying to keep my health better and stuff, you know, on top of everything. But honestly, I think the biggest thing actually has been getting back into martial arts and keeping my mindset level, and, you know, getting myself into more of routines on different things outside of work, and, you know, getting away from technology and being disciplined to, like, hey, it's okay to shut down for, you know, a number of hours and stuff every day. And, you know, I think that has put my mind into a different level that I've been missing for a long time as well. You know, even with preparing for the Everest stuff and, you know, all the business stuff, like in some ways it's kind of been better for my business and stuff as well, kind of getting a different discipline and different perspective and stuff kind of on a daily basis and stuff as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the biggest from a discipline standpoint stuff personally.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've had several guests on here talking about health, and it might sound like, why is she talking about health on a leadership podcast, right? But that goes back to leading yourself effectively, and you have to take care of your body.
Yeah, if you don't take care of yourself, I mean, how can you help somebody else? You know, people look up to you, you know, when you're in a leadership role. You know, if you're, you know, letting yourself go and you're like, you know, 500 pounds overweight and smoking and drinking and, you know, doing whatever, you know, like, does that look like a leader? Yeah. No, you know, like, are your employees going to look up to you if they don't respect you for different things? Like, probably not, you know? So, you know, even family members, you know, if they know you're not taking care of yourself and you're just kind of like saying something instead of like following your own advice, like, you know, it's, you got to kind of live the life you lead, you know, in a lot of ways. Yeah. And, it's what gives them that respect of like, hey, this guy did this and, you know, he does this and he talks about this. Like, you know, it all comes together at the end of the day.
And people can see it in action. Yeah. But I think also admitting when you're being challenged, right? Oh, you know, I look to you and you face challenges getting ready for the trip, or you face challenges on the trip, and you can openly admit that, and you don't have to be superhuman, and that's okay. And I think it's so important for leaders to be open about the challenges that they're facing mentally, you know, emotionally, physically, whatever it may be, opening up about those.
Yeah, it makes us all human, you know. We all face challenges. We all, you know, find ways to overcome them, and you know, that's what makes us better as leaders and stuff as well at the end of the day. You know, when an employee or a friend or a family member or whoever and stuff, you know, people listening to this podcast, they hear us talking about our own challenges, you know, it humanizes us and shows that, hey, you can get through it if you put yourself into a mindset of pushing through and not letting the fear take over and win, you know, in you know, basically at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, not letting the fear win, because that's what you're doing. If you stop the moment you feel the fear, you stop trying, that's what you're doing. You're letting it win. Yeah. It's a good way to look at it. I'm a very competitive person. I don't want to let it win.
Anytime somebody tells me, no, I can't do something, or no, like, oh, you said no. Okay. Time to
challenge, accepted.
Yep. Exactly.
All right. I'm curious, any final words of wisdom or stories from the trip you didn't get to share? I know that you have so many like little stories from the trip that I'm sure are like swirling around in there, but is there anything in particular that you had in mind?
So I guess the most so not words of wisdom or anything, but the only other kind of cool thing that happened and stuff over there, and I had no idea that it was New Year's in April over there. I got to celebrate New Year's like in April. Like it was the last day of my trip, and I'm in my hotel, and I go outside, and everybody's celebrating the New Year's in Nepal, and I'm like, and people in the streets, like, I mean,
you're like, did I go through a time warp or something?
It was the weirdest thing on the face of the planet. So like, I call Hamlet, I'm like, what is going on outside? Like, why is there fireworks and all this stuff going on? He's like, oh, it's Nepali New Year's. I'm like, oh, awesome. So I get to celebrate. I'm like, I guess that makes sense why everything said 2023 when I was over there. Yeah. Even though it was 2024, I thought. Oh. But so yeah, it became 2024 on, I guess, the calendar when I was over there.
Okay, that is so confusing.
It was very weird. It was very, very confusing. Yeah.
Huh. I'm going to have to read more on that. Yeah. That doesn't make much sense to me.
No, it was super weird, but awesome.
Okay.
Like, because
of
like,
great.
And the parties, like,
they were really just celebrating you, Michael. That's what they were doing. They were celebrating you and your success.
Well, honestly, so this was one of the nicest things that they did for me and stuff over there. And I've got other stories and stuff too, but so my guide and other people that I had met and stuff over there, they threw me a birthday party. Like, it was so cool. Like, I got to celebrate my birthday over there.
That is so
They
sweet.
gave me this like prayer flag scarf thing and stuff like that, and we went out to a restaurant on like one of my last nights there and everything, and we all got to
Aw,
celebrate and stuff.
they
And
really did celebrate you.
it was so
Here
it
I
was
was
so
being a
nice.
smart aleck.
It
I
was
made
so
that.
it was so nice. It was so much fun.
Would
and
you
stuff.
turn 41 on your trip?
I did. Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so when you go back, you said you're going back in 2030?
2030.
Okay.
I won't be
Why,
50 yet.
why that date?
My daughter will be over the age of 18 at that point.
Okay.
My wife told me, and I promised her I wouldn't try to climb until our kids were older.
Oh.
being honest,
Okay.
well, she'll be an adult at that point. So,
Oh, jeez.
all jokes aside,
Yeah. All right.
yeah,
Okay, that makes sense.
yeah. Dad can go risk and do crazy things, when you're an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it makes sense. Okay, how are you going to prepare differently for that trip?
I am planning a lot more summit climbs and stuff, kind of around the world, and
That's good. Lead up to
even
it.
here, like Mount Washington and things like that and stuff. So I've got different treks and different climbing expeditions kind of
That's cool.
scheduled and planned that I'm going to attempt and
Yeah.
stuff. Not doing that as my first big climb.
Yeah,
That would be a little too crazy even for me.
I think so.
Yeah.
So I'm excited because my dad did the Tetons when he was 18.
Yeah.
He is about to turn 68. He's doing a 50-year anniversary trip
Awesome.
to the Tetons. So I'm actually going to ride out west with him, ride across the country, spend some time with him before he goes.
Very cool.
So yeah, I want to summit Mount Whitney.
Nice.
My middle name is named after obviously that, and I've always wanted to do that, but I mean, honestly, I'm so obsessed with getting the business to a certain place and being successful with that.
Yeah.
Like, I know I can push my body to get there with it, but I haven't been able to give it the attention that it needs, but you have to hold me to that.
I will. That's an awesome goal though.
Yeah, I think it'll be great.
Just put it on the calendar.
I should. You're right. I should put it on the calendar.
Put it on the calendar,
It'll
and
make me
then
do
you
it.
have no other option.
Mhm.
Somehow find some way to put a deposit on something
Yeah.
that like
Yeah, money.
non-refundable.
Mhm.
Like you're like, well, I don't want to lose that, so I better do it.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
All right.
Force yourself.
You actually have to buy a permit
There you go.
to go up to
Oh.
the peak of Mount Whitney. So,
Well, there you go. Have you been researching this, sir?
have I been researching that? I've researched many things.
Okay. He's branching out.
Yeah. Hey,
That's
keep it
what we
going.
do around here. All right.
Team effort. Accountability partner.
Yes, this is true. I tend to be the accountability partner for everyone else, so I need them too.
Yep.
All right, we always do a branching out challenge. What do you want to challenge our listeners with based on our conversation today?
So I talked about it before,
Mm-hmm.
about being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's going to be my challenge.
Okay.
Do one thing in the next, I'm going to say week.
Okay.
I'd
good.
say month, but then the month is too long.
Yeah, it's too
in
long.
the
They'll
next
forget.
week, do one thing to become uncomfortable.
And let
And
us
put
know
it in
what
the
it
comments.
is. Yes.
Put it in the comments.
You have to share it with us. You need to get on their case because I don't hear much from them. People will text me, but I need to get comments on my posts and stuff. When we do
100%.
these challenges, I need to hear that they're doing them.
Yep.
So
Follow up.
I think it's a good one.
Get
It's an
uncomfortable.
important
Put it in the comments.
one.
There we go.
Well, this has been great. I appreciate you coming on again. And just
Yeah.
for people listening, he came out on a Sunday, which is a big deal to me for someone to give up their Sunday. So thank you for that. I
no problem.
appreciate it. And his busiest weekend ever.
It's been fun.
It's great having you. And if anybody wants to go to Everest Base Camp, now they have a resource to go to and they know
Message
how much
me.
to put in
Yeah.
their pack.
Yeah, just reach out. I've got a whole packing list that I can
There you
share with you if you want.
go.
Like I've got notes, I've got contacts, I've got anything. So anybody has any questions, definitely reach out to
Yeah.
Sierra. She'll put you in touch with me.
Yeah. No,
Tons
they
of
can
advice.
get right in touch with you. How can they get in touch with you?
You can go to nexusbox.io or you can shoot me an email, michael@nexusbox.io. glad to, help you out on the web development side, or if you, like I said, if
Yes,
you
of
literally have
course.
questions on the trek and stuff, happy to, give you that advice as well.
Yeah, he's our go-to. So knowledgeable. Well, thanks again.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for sticking through to the end of the episode. I hope you found value in today's conversation about leading yourself effectively. We're going to be having Michael back for some other episodes too, so keep listening for those. I know that folks really enjoyed that first episode, and I know you probably got a lot out of today as well. As always, our episodes drop on Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time, so be sure to subscribe so you get those notifications. And until next time, keep branching out.